You're listening to the Business and BBQ Podcast, hosted by Tim Harridge. Tim Harridge is an active entrepreneur who built and sold 6 companies by the age of 40 and enjoys sharing the ups and downs of business and entrepreneur life. As for the barbecue, that's just something he has a passion for and likes to share as well. Here's your host, Tim Harridge.
All right. What's cooking, everybody? Tim Harridge here with another episode of the Business and BBQ Podcast. And today we're talking to my good friend, Charlie Calise. Charlie is a marketing genius. Charlie has decades of experience of not only being a marketer, but an agency owner, a CEO, a chairman, a real estate investor, and an all-around good guy. I also have to tell you that Charlie really does like some barbecue. Today we'll talk about how a small project can lead to big things, the right way to think about your marketing campaigns, understanding the customer journey, the science of advertising or ad science, wearing a tuxedo at a convenience store, and the lessons you can learn from the front seat of your father's car. Stick around. We've got a great show. I can't wait to introduce you to Charlie. Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/TH and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a free title and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/TH today. Get started with your free trial and claim your one free audiobook. All right, welcome back, everybody. Got my good friend, Charlie Calise, on the line with me. Charlie, say hello.
Hey, Tim. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I'm just glad you were able to take time. You know, since you're such a busy CEO, buying companies, what are you now, like one of the largest medium-sized marketing agencies? What is this?
We're probably in the top 3 in Dallas now.
Charlie, before we get started, why don't you just tell kind of everyone who you are and what you do?
Well, I'm an advertising guy by trade. I've been in the business for, I lose track of the number of years, but I've been in the advertising business my entire career. I had the good privilege of working on some great brands. I worked on things like Coppertone tanning products and Coca-Cola USA Fresca Mellow Yellow. So a lot of my time was in packaged goods. And then when telecommunications was cool back in the 90s, we were doing that before the internet ramped up. And then we did a lot of online marketing back when the .com craze was going. And then from there, we kind of caught the real estate thing, which is when you and I had first met. We caught the real estate thing skipping right up off the bottom, and have had a good ride up with that for the last, 9 or 10 years now.
Yeah, man. So you flip houses in 1 or 2 markets now?
Two. Dallas and Jacksonville, Florida.
And you have rental property in, Dallas.
In both. Yeah.
And you run a marketing agency. You kind of spearheaded this company that I think led or leads most of the home investors marketing for the franchisees.
That's right. Yeah. That's how I got introduced into the business, and obviously where we first met. Started with them on a small project. We did a television spot or 2 for home investors back in the day, and kind of one thing led to another, and just was at the right place at the right time with the right group of people. And it's been a really, really good ride for all of us. And of course, I drank the Kool-Aid. We had the good opportunity of doing some very good work with these guys for, I think, going on 9 years now. And it's unclear if I bought the franchise before I became their agency or right after, but we've been at it for a long time. I have no idea how many houses that we've done at this point, a couple hundred, which in your world that's nothing really in your world, but we've had a good time at it. My wife is involved. My wife is does all the rehabbing in the Dallas franchise. My daughter does the buying in the Dallas franchise. And then I'm in business with my son in the Jacksonville franchise. So as you know, it can be a great family business.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think I don't really want to talk about like any one of your clients too much, right? Because obviously you have confidentiality things that you like to adhere to. I'm sure a lot of my investor friends would love to have you tell all the home investor secrets, but that's not going to happen. But what I'd really like to talk about today is I've run multiple businesses, from a small tech startup to the big B2R Blackstone lending company to my flipping company to now a podcasting company, a trade show company. And, I think where too many people in business go wrong, I was sitting in a hamburger restaurant in downtown Rockwall the other day, and there was these young marketing guys sitting down at the table, a couple tables down with the owner of the small company, and just telling him all about how Instagram was going to change his business. And it's funny, I now look at what he's doing with his Instagram, because I follow him. I like hamburgers. You know that about me. But it's all, hey, look at me. Hey, look at me. It's no engagement with his community. And they're not really getting out there. It's more like today's sale is blank, right? Tomorrow's live music is blank, right? They're not telling a story. They're not engaging with their customers or building an affinity. So forgetting any one business, I mean, let's talk just a little bit about marketing philosophies that you've seen work and marketing philosophies you've seen not work in business in general.
Well, I think the first thing, Tim, great question, by the way, and especially if you think back really where you and I started when we met 9 or 10 years ago, how much the business has changed and how much marketing has changed in the last 9 or 10 years, right? Obviously, with the internet having developed the way that it has today, I mean, that's a huge transition in a relatively short period of time. I'll get back and address Instagram specifically in a second, but when you think about everybody gets all excited and wound up about social media and online and that sort of thing. And what's really important, I think what we've discovered, and it's really our company has really hung its hat and began to differentiate itself. Customer journey really does not, at least in our experience, and this changes depending upon the category, but it doesn't begin and end on the internet in one medium like Instagram. The customer journey is fluid and it often starts offline, still in old traditional media like outdoor and direct mail and television and radio. And then the customer journeys and skips online to go learn more information about it and then ultimately may convert online. And unless you're running a sophisticated program, you're on a last touch attribution model and you're looking at, oh, they came in on the internet. It must be the internet, right? The internet's working. Let's put all of our money on the internet.
Right.
That's not how it's really working at all. You know, many years ago, we were ahead of this data analytics curve and we built a platform called Ad Science. And so Ad Science is a very robust customer data platform. So it's able to ingest information from like the United States Postal Service, Google, Bing. We've got our own trade desk. So what that means is if you think about kind of buying a stock on the stock exchange, well, a lot of these display ads and online video and those types of things that you see on your computer are served very similarly. So you put a bid out there at $2 a thousand and boom, instantaneously, we're buying that and feeding that ad to that individual audience. And then our ability to follow that audience all around the internet, understand what their behaviors are, and then be able to go and find lookalike audiences and convert those people into our business. And so what we've been able to do very effectively now is be able to understand really where the journey begins and whether or not if that's mail or calling a phone number on an outdoor board or a TV spot or what have you, and then watch that person jump online, trace them all over the internet, and then watch them convert online, and then through machine learning, understand how we go find more people like it. So that's the long-winded answer. The short answer to your question is the business has changed dramatically since when you and I first met each other, and now it's really highly sophisticated, and that journey is fluid from offline to online. And there's very few companies that really have the ability to be able to track that leap really from the offline media into online. And so we really see in our data that a lot of the offline media still drives those online conversions. So back to your hamburger guy, at the end of the day, it's not all about Instagram. Instagram is one of the media that's probably likely effective for him.
Where do you think the journey typically begins? Is it with, I mean, I guess there's a multiple, right? There's a want, there's a need, there's a curiosity, right? And I guess, you know, back in the day before the internet, you would go ask probably your parents for advice. But now, you know, people are asking for advice and they're looking at all these, they're listening to podcasts, they're searching Google, they're on online forums. That's the thing that you always are trying to, I think, when you're trying to start that marketing, I don't even know, cycle, plan, it's like, where do you start, right? You think about like your product or service and what need or desire or demographic does it suit? I mean, just talk through, because I think so many people, I hear a lot about customer avatars these days. And it's something I'd never really done. But when I started doing it with different business models, I was like, okay, well, this makes sense. I mean, you know, you really got to kind of figure out who wants what it is is you offer and where you can find them, right?
Absolutely. Man, you hit it really on the head. I think that, look, the answer to your question is that it starts in a different place depending upon the product or service that you're offering, right? But at the end of the day, I think you really hit it on the head. It's all about the audience. And what's really, really amazing today is how sophisticated our ability to understand who that audience is, right? So as you know, when we first started, you basically had demographics and that's about it, right? Today, obviously, so much starts with demographics, but what we've learned through all this machine learning is what the customer's behavior is. So we're taking their demographics, we're matching that with their behaviors, and then being able to duplicate that and go find people with similar behaviors like them. So you'd be surprised, and someone like yourself, I know you're into barbecue and I know you enjoy the outdoors and things like that. It would absolutely blow your mind at our ability today to select an audience and how absolutely granular that audience can get in terms of our ability to go out there and search and find them.
Right.
And, you see it. I think you see it like it's probably easiest for you on your Facebook feed. All of a sudden you're being served an ad for a barbecue grill and right. So they know what your behaviors are. And it may not just be the things like they served you a barbecue grill because you visited that website. It's very simple. That's a very simple technology for us. But when some guy is serving you barbecue sauce or sprinkle or firewood or any other kinds of things, that starts to give you an idea of our ability now to really understand who that customer is and how to go chase that audience.
So this could be an interesting little 10-minute project. Let's just say that I'm that hamburger guy, and I'm not going to say which company it is. I don't want a hometown guy to feel like I'm like picking on my house, so to speak. But I think, so if I was that guy, and we'll do this like in a forked approach. Let's say I don't have a bunch of money to hire a big agency that has machine learning and all sorts of databases and data. It sounds like what you're saying is the best thing I could do would be, if I want more people to come to lunch at my restaurant, is to look around at the people that are actually at lunch in my restaurant.
It's pretty old. That part's pretty old school, isn't it? Right?
Well, yeah. I mean, right. It's like, okay, well, there's some teachers over there. How are they coming in? Is it the price point? Is it the convenience? Is it the location? Okay, here's these group of guys that work for Encore, right? I think people get all wrapped up in, making things a little too complicated. And it's got to get complicated when you have a big machine, right? But on the most simple approach, I was thinking about that lunch appointment that where I saw those guys like trying to sell him, they were trying to sell him a social media marketing plan, right? That's what they were trying. Oh, we're going to take pictures of your food and put it on Instagram. I think he has like 400 followers now. But it's like, look around your audience, because when I look around the audience in some places, their customers may not be on Instagram, or their live music, because the people that come in there for live music on the weekends may be on Instagram, but the people that come in for a hamburger lunch, right, that have day jobs may not be on Instagram. So like just kind of let's come up with, if you're talking to a small entrepreneur in any business, let's talk about creating that customer journey. So first is figure out who your target customer is.
Absolutely. So look, I think you said there's a lot to unpack in what you just said there. So first of all, I think as simple as it may be, looking around the restaurant is going to tell this guy a lot. If you think about that on a big scale, it's us taking 100,000 contracts or 100,000 customers and appending demographic and behavioral. We've got roughly 750 data points that we'll append to a record. In a way, the guy in the hamburger restaurant's doing the same thing, right? Is it a man? Is it a woman? How old are they? Did they have kids at the table? And then the other thing that I think is interesting is if you think about, you remember back in the day, Fishbowl, do you remember that thing where you put your card, right?
Yeah.
So if you just think about as data as simple as that, how far did these people drive to that restaurant? What is their email address? What is their physical address? That's all you need, right? At the end of the day, you can start baking the cake with that little bit of information. And now even to the consumer, so it's not as nearly as sophisticated as the stuff that we're doing, but the hamburger guy can go online and start reaching out to people that are on Facebook that are within his geographical area, that meet his demographic, that with that email address, you can actually get a lot of information, right? You can target them them through their email address. So I think you're spot on. It's really just about looking. It's still that part of it starts with who is it that's using my product or coming into my restaurant. And the only real difference is that what we do is on a bigger scale and much more sophisticated, but the principles and the disciplines are very similar.
So one of the things that you just said was kind of collect information, right? So in certain businesses, you may actually, if you're an agency providing support to an existing company, you may already have access to their data, right? Like when at B2R, when you were helping build the marketing for direct mail for me, right? It was, okay, well, let's just look at who you're doing loans to, right? And let's go look up more people like them in the public records and go get them, right? Well, for the hamburger guy, right, it sounds like one of the things, since he may not have access to that data. So number one would be like, hey, let's start collecting some data. Maybe get a fishbowl out and offer every day you draw a free hamburger or something, right? And then, take that data, and if you don't have a spreadsheet, I guess you're saying just let's look at it. Forney, Rockwall. It's like, okay, well, I'm getting people from Forney and Rockwall, so maybe we should target there for lunch, right? And then do the same thing for dinner. And Royce City, Wiley, Garland. Okay, we're getting other people in for that, so let's target this for our live music and our dinner. Is something like that, or? Yeah,
look, I think that's kind of the basic place to start. I think the thing, I skipped over it, but I thought you made a really important point. The guy's got 400 followers on Instagram. So first of all, congratulations, it's pretty good. 400 prospects doesn't make for a business, right? And I think that, getting back to customer journey again, at this guy's disposal, and at most of the people that I'm sure are following your podcast, understanding this information of who their audience is, whether or not if it's a house seller or, a guy eating a hamburger, understanding that basic information is important, but 400 customers isn't going to get you there. You run the numbers. You've been in this business a long time, skipping over to real estate. You can't send 400 mailers out and expect that you're going to get rich off of 400. How many calls you're going to get back on 400? Back to the hamburger guy, look, you've got every door direct mail, you've got Valpak, you've got the insert in the newspaper, you've got all these things that are available to you, right? But Tim, the important thing about it is you're now reaching thousands of people with your message, and it really just becomes a numbers game, right? And obviously the big difference between what a small hamburger guy is doing and what we're doing is the level of intelligence in that transaction that's going on, and his ability to bring somebody into the restaurant versus our ability to bring somebody in the restaurant. And hopefully we're doing it at a much more efficient scale, but the basically the same between the two. And I'll make a point because I think you hit on it. 400 is generally not enough to drive your business every day. And so you start looking at these media types that are still relatively inexpensive, where you can reach a lot of people. And then chances are they're going to come look online with you. So let's go to your hamburger guy. They're going to go to Google and they might look you up just in the Google Maps, right? So it's probably important that you're available there so that if people want to call in or people want to drive over, or maybe you serve them, you're capturing their information, you can serve them an ad. So you see how this offline media is connected on to what's happening with the online journey. Make sense?
Yeah, it does. You're going to get me talking about real estate lead generation, which is a topic I really want to avoid because I just don't like it. So often in my career, I've had people come up to me and they want to send 400 postcards a month or 400 letters or make 400 cold calls or whatever. And they want to do it all in 1 month. And if it doesn't work, then try something else. Talk a little bit. I'm going to shift gears on you completely. There was an old quote, I think it was from Henry Ford, that said something like stopping marketing to help your business is like stopping breathing to feel better or something like that.
Right.
Talk about the importance in marketing of consistency, or maybe having a 6-month plan instead of a 6-day plan. Like, what is your philosophy about doing something in a consistent manner, even if it's smaller but more consistent?
Look, I tell people all the time, I think that you do what you're comfortable doing for an extended period of time, right? And you and I have been in the trench together on a couple of occasions where, you got guys that want to pop into this business and I'm going to spend 20 grand, 30 grand, 50 grand, 60 grand a month. Okay, man, are you prepared to do that for a year? So So I'd rather see a guy spend $5,000 a month or $2,000 a month or $1,000 a month. It doesn't matter, right? But do what you feel like you can do for a long period of time as part of your business plan. When I say a long period of time, 6 months to a year, that you're comfortable that you can make that work. And my experience is that that tends to work really well. And I think, popping back to your real estate business, this as well as I do. We've got some advantages because of the data and our ability to predict when a house might flip, right? But as well as I do that sometimes that seller takes a while before they're ready to sell, right? It's a process. They've got to go through their journey. And if you're present, 2 months ago and they're ready to sell now and you're not present, you're not top of mind, chances are they're not going to call you. They're not going to remember from 2 months ago. And it doesn't matter, in my opinion, if that's a real estate transaction or if that's a hamburger, right? They'll go to a different burger joint or they'll go and get a pizza. Whoever's in front of them at that closest moment prior to purchase or to sell, in the case of real estate. So, and believe me, there's plenty of research behind that one, especially back to your hamburger guy. I think people make decisions within 5 minutes of a restaurant decision.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's so important. So that quote was actually Henry Ford once said, "A man who stops advertising to save money is like a man who stops the clock to save time."
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, but marketing is one of those things that I get asked it a lot. Is it pay-per-click? Is it SEO? And I don't know. I mean, we're going to talk about some barbecue in just a minute. So I want to kind of tie a bow on marketing. If you have a small entrepreneur, someone that is about to start or just started their own business, what's 3 or 4 pieces of marketing advice you could give them?
Well, a lot depends on the category, Tim, right? So
let's say I want to start a barbecue restaurant and I'm okay. I want to start it. What's some advice you can give me other than don't do it?
First thing I'd say, if you were going to start a barbecue restaurant, is location, right? What is that? Location.
Yeah.
And that comes back to your real estate business too, right?
Yeah.
So I would say location, and understanding, listen, back to your earlier comments, who is your target audience and does that location that you're looking at fit with who's the target audience and if they're living in your neighborhood and how far they're going to drive, because only Tim Harridge and Charlie will drive 20 miles for a barbecue joint or maybe 100 miles for a barbecue joint.
Right.
So I would say understanding the target audience and location in that particular example. I think a couple of things, though, that are relatively inexpensive. Still, I think things like direct mail and Valpak and things like that, where, the ones that you're still able to run a little coupon inside of them, you're reaching a lot of people at pennies, right? And then I would expect that customer is going to journey online, and are you going to be prepared to then be able to convert them? And I would look at things like Google Maps and make sure that, your Google listings and your Google My Business and things like that are airtight. But things like Yelp are really important, because people are going to turn to Yelp for directions, are going to turn to Yelp for reviews. Reviews are very important depending upon the business that you're in. I think you started some of the comments very early on. One of our clients is the largest HVAC installation and repair company in North America. And you'd be surprised how many people still will go to a friend for a referral on an HVAC repair. If the air conditioning breaks, they call their friend. It's the number one way that they find an HVAC repair person. So to us, things like reviews, customer satisfaction, things like that are critically important, right? So a lot depends on the different business, but I would think about the business in terms of a combination of a lot of reach from as inexpensively as you can buy it through some of these local offline old traditional media types like mail and Valpak and things like that. And then I would be prepared to convert those customers when they come online. It's just kind of a basic strategy, a yin and yang of offline and online.
So with regards to I completely agree. Number one, I mean, you're kind of basically, in case people aren't familiar with Valpak, like go to your mailbox and see what it is you get on a weekly or monthly basis that you don't pay for. And that's where you need to try to advertise, because, I mean, at the end of the day, like out here in Rockwell, we have Living Magazine, right? It's just, they publish it every month. People advertise in it. It's all about this area. You have Valpak. You have the missing kid flyers we used to do. do. You have the little community mailers with the coupons in them. You have the Sunday inserts in the newspaper, right? I mean, all these things, I'd say just like the same advice, and I hate to make advertising so simple, but like to me, it really is. I mean, and it always has been. It's like, okay, who's buying from me now and how can I find more of them? Like that's kind of step one, right?
That's right. And the only difference between then and now is it's gotten a lot more sophisticated, right? And I think you're right. A lot of those media types that you just discussed are still very valuable. I think the big thing today is, for your listeners, I would say, is the yin and yang between that traditional and that offline and that online. And what I tend to see happen today, and especially in the really sophisticated marketing models, is most people are looking at a last touch attribution model. They see it come in online and they just want to keep pouring money online. You and I have been part of some of those conversations in the past, and keep pouring money online and ignore the old traditional media. And what I'm here really communicating to your listeners is it's a yin and a yang. You can't have that traditional without being prepared to accept that customer online, because basically what you're going to do is spend that money offline and drive your customer to a competitor online if you're not prepared with that yin and yang.
Well,
but if you only focus online, it's likely you're not going to see the velocity that you need to drive your business by just focusing online. So there's a yin and a yang to that model.
So I know that you guys are highly technical and highly capable. If you've got a small company, entrepreneur, hamburger man, how do they set up an effective website? I'm not going to say an affordable website, but keeping small businesses in mind, just you got any advice on creating an effective website?
Yeah. So look, I think, first of all, I think you might recall we bought a relatively large size digital agency back in April. And really the reason that we bought it was it really completed our vision for what we were trying to do. We had all the offline capability. We had all of the online media buying opportunity with paid search and all of the programmatic trade desk and all that. But ultimately that transaction takes place on the website. So it's a really great question that you ask. Ultimately, in a lot of cases, the transaction will take place on the website. And you'd be surprised at things like how site speed, a half a second in site speed can bring down a conversion rate like crazy, right? So I'm not really the expert in the company on, how to build a great website, but a couple of things. One is, especially for a small guy, and even for a lot of the big guys, there are fairly readily available templates available for, this doesn't work for our large clients, right? But for a lot of the smaller guys that you're talking about, these templates work great, right? And you've got a great starting point. So that's one thing. I would try to keep it simple, get me a good template that's going to work effectively and start there. Again, if you're a small entrepreneur, I think probably the most important thing is you got to remember, and it depends on the category, but most of the transactions are going to happen right here, Tim. They're going to happen on this phone. So you got to think about, how does that website translate and look online? Is it responsive in its nature if somebody picks up the phone, and how is it going to look there? In the case of a restaurateur, I've got to make sure location, all the things that are important to actually make a conversion are right there at the top of the page, because a lot of people aren't going to scroll all the way to the bottom going to look for information for you. So right at the top, what is it that you want to communicate? And it's probably the third thing that I would add here is, what do you do? What is the benefit that you are going to provide at the end of the day? And look, I don't want to make it about hamburgers, but it could be as simple as, we've got great hamburgers. We're the best hamburger in Rockwall, right? The best hamburger. Don't overcomplicate it, right? Explain to people what you do right up front, because chances are that's all they're going to see about your business. So, and then on your real estate business, your real estate listeners, I think one of the big things, that we see in any type of retail environment where you're trying to get people to convert online, is to make sure that that web form and that phone number are prominent. And no matter where somebody scrolls on that phone, that web form kind of moves with them, so they don't have to go back up to the top and try to find it anywhere along the line. They're prepared to convert. So I don't know, those are just a handful of things. But if you like, one day maybe we could do another follow-up podcasts just on websites. And I know the team sit down with you and give you best practices.
I mean, yeah, I think so, man. And I appreciate that because it's so important. I tell people all the time, it's like, if you don't have the money for a website, at least have an effective web page. Even if it's just you buy the template at GoDaddy when you register your domain and you pay, get on Fiverr.com for a $10 logo and you put a little logo and we have the best hamburgers in Rockwall and here's our address and here's our hours of operation, phone number, contact form, right? Like you can watch a 15-minute YouTube video and knock that out in 30 minutes. And what you don't want to do is get the site template and then never fill out the about us or contact us or the more information page. And then you have all that lorem epsilon stuff all over it, right?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think, the big play now with these websites is, now they've, especially for us and what we deal with, I mean, so highly sophisticated. And another thing that I would add as your clients get more sophisticated is SEO. And you'd be surprised that, and I don't know, I remember the statistic I just presented it the other day, but Google's changed its algorithm 8 times in the last 6 months or something. I just presented it the other day. And so, our guys are constantly trying to keep pace with the latest changes in terms of that Google's making. So I think SEO is really important. I think the whole technical side of SEO is really important. I'm going to go off on a tangent.
Please do.
For a second. And some of this stuff it's a lot more sophisticated than maybe a hamburger restaurateur might need. But there's several things that I think that we're seeing that are making a big difference in terms of what's happening in the future. One is voice. You see it all the time, just in terms of the way you search with Google or Alexa or whatever the case may be. So, oh God, I just said Alexa and off she went. That was crazy.
You can tell her to listen to the Business and BBQ podcast.
So look, voice is a really big deal and video is a really big deal. I don't remember the statistic. It's another one that we just presented the other day, but watching a minute of video is the equivalent of, in terms of what people comprehend, it compares to volumes of books, right? It's just our ability to consume video. And especially if you think about our young kids, right, where they grew up on video on the phone, they're conditioned that way. And what's really cool about what Google's doing now is if you're looking for a how-to video on, say, your wife wants to braid your daughter's hair and she's looking for a video on braiding hair, Google's now and very soon have the ability, you don't have to watch the whole video anymore. It goes right to the point where the braid is. And so when you think about that in terms of our business, there's a lot of back-end code that's written in behind that video that's signaling Google that this is the point where we get to how to braid the hair, right? So you can take that kind of idea and translate that to hamburgers or real estate or whatever the case may be. So, it's really become much, much more sophisticated. The final thing is that is really cool that we're seeing that's coming and is really progressing quite a bit already in Europe is how the whole text platform is going to be much more dynamic than what it is now. So right now, how it's so relatively simple. Imagine your ability to right now go while you're in text. I don't know if you've got the Zelle app or something like that. Do you ever send money to your kids by phone?
Well, not my kids anymore, but my contractors, they're kind of like kids.
Yeah. My dad didn't have the Zelle app.
Yeah. No, mine didn't neither.
Yeah. Anyway, so, what's cool is that what we're seeing that's going to happen now is so much. This is going to take place inside this texting platform where you can transfer money right out of your text. You'll be able to send a DocuSign for a real estate contract right out of texting. So we're seeing a lot of innovation in that whole platform that's pretty exciting as well.
You've said so much. So
I'm sorry. I get excited about it.
I do too, right? Because I think a lot of business problems can be solved by good marketing, right? Good salesmanship, good planning. And there's a lot of, I was looking at the numbers of new businesses started now that the economy is, just going super strong, and it's great, but then it worries you because having been through so many entrepreneurial curves like I have, it worries you that if they're not, kind of minding the castles enough, could definitely adversely affect the function of their business if they don't have a good marketing plan. Like one of the things I've done recently is trying to get the word out on the podcast is when I post these episodes, I buy $100 worth of Facebook ads. And, the first months I was kind of impatient doing that thing that a lot of people do. I would spend the whole $100 in the month. Then I just started thinking, I was like, okay, why not buy $100 and just do it for 6 months? Like a really low spend, because then if I'm putting a new one out every week, then you're kind of building that longevity, that slow, consistent. And it was a bit frustrating for me because a lot of people that start their own business, they're high red, right? They're type A motors. They're going to run over the wall, right? And I think they have to find that patience. So any parting words of wisdom on marketing before we move on to my next topic?
Well, just to kind of respond to that one for a minute, I think you got to realize, even for the small business, that these platforms, Facebook, Google, Instagram, these are learning platforms. So, look, I'm not sure at $25 that you can get there, or how fast you can get there. But the notion of dumping a bunch of money at once, whatever a bunch of money means to you, is generally not as effective as pacing that out over time, especially on these platforms. And the reason is that the platforms learn. They need time to learn, right? It's not going to learn overnight. And I'm speaking to you from an insane scale of $150 of business that we're driving through these platforms. So it's on a monster scale. But the point still stands for the burger guy, right? Pace yourself out. The machine will learn. You're going to learn, right? You're going to learn which of these is better than another. And so I think my parting shot here is be disciplined in your marketing plan the same way you are disciplined in your operations of your business, and you should be successful with it.
Well, that is good advice, Charlie. Now, let's see. I want to show you a portion of the screen. Oh, wait. I got to figure it out. You see that?
Not yet. Oh, here we go. Something's happening now. Nice.
Nice. You're looking at the brisket I made yesterday. And, well, one of the two, I wrapped one. I didn't wrap the other. And this is actually the one I did not wrap. I liked it a lot more than the one I did wrap. I mean, this end of the flat was kind of a little too charred for me. But I'm telling you, from the middle of the flat to the point, it was just perfect. Nice, crunchy bark. But we're going to take a quick break, come back. I'm going to talk to my friend Charlie about a little bit of barbecue.
Start collecting more leads in minutes. Not only do I use HubSpot's free CRM, but I also use their free marketing tools. Start turning visitors into leads today. Sign up for free at HubSpot.com/TH. With HubSpot Marketing Free, you'll have everything you need to convert more visitors into leads. Sign up for free today, and it's free forever. No contract or credit card required. It's a risk-free way to see what inbound marketing can do for you. Start turning visitors into leads today. Sign up for free at HubSpot.com/TH.
We're back with Charlie Calise, my buddy, owner of chairman or owner, I don't know, of Calise Partners. Imaginuity. Okay, only one word. That's even more creative. And Charlie is one of the few people that I first started talking about one of the first people I started talking about barbecue with in a business setting. And then a guy that he had referred to me that worked for me for a while started telling me all about how Charlie's trailer, and Charlie's a big barbecue guy. Charlie, are you originally from Texas?
No, I'm from Florida.
Oh, that's right, Jacksonville. So what got you into barbecue?
Well, my dad, back in the day, remember those 55-gallon drums back in the day, and you would cut them in half? It might be a little bit before your time, Tim. You're still a young guy, but
no, I grew up in East Texas, Charlie, so we did a bunch of weird stuff.
Yeah, they take a 55-gallon drum and basically cut it horizontally, put a couple handles on it and a hinge, and that was a barbecue. And my dad was really good, man. Now, in Florida, we used oak, and man, he would barbecue every weekend, like chicken, ribs, pork butt, all the classics. We didn't do brisket back in Florida, but man, he got me started. And so I grew up making steaks and smoking barbecue. And yeah, I was going to show you my barbecue, but anyway, I got into it through my dad. And when I got here to Texas, this guy on the side of the road had this monster smoker and custom made deal. And then I put it on a trailer. And so we house at Cedar Creek Lake, and man, we wore that thing out. And so I thought, as you know, you and I were going to try and get together earlier in the week. So I hauled it out of storage, and I've got it over in my driveway waiting on you.
I told you, man, you were the one that canceled.
Oh, no, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying I had it out ready for us. So I still want to have you try mine.
What do you like to cook now?
Well, I think the two things I'm really good at is my ribs are really good. I have my own sprinkle, and maybe if you're interested, I'm happy to write it down, you can push it out to your folks.
Well, yeah.
But, I've got a really nice sprinkle, and my ribs are, I think, really good. But I'll tell you what I'm really on to now, Tim, is this thing called a short rib plate.
Yeah.
I think it's called the short rib plate. So, man, it is, I don't know if you can see my hands here, but it's this big. The ribs on it are that big. And it's probably this big the way you buy it in the cryovac, right?
Yeah.
And man, it is fabulous. So I make it kind of like you do a brisket. I put my sprinkle on it, and it doesn't take near as long as a brisket. You know, I'm going to say 4 or 5 hours and you've knocked it out really nice. But it tastes, and it has the consistency of that kind of fatty cap part of the brisket. Man, it'll knock your socks off. It's just phenomenal. So those are the two things that I'm probably known for.
Is that the smoker?
Can you see it?
No, I just pulled it up on mine.
What do you have?
Is that your smoker?
What are you looking at?
I'm on Facebook from October 8th, 2017.
Oh, probably. I don't know. I don't know what you're looking at. I can't see what you're...
Nice. Two-door rig.
Yeah. With the chrome wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
I like it. What do you think? Like, to me, barbecue is like this cultural thing. And I don't know. I mean, I was telling someone the other day, I was on a consultation call, and it's just one of those things that soothes my soul. And I think it provides me an escape from really just, I was talking to my kids this lunch, and we were talking, and I said, I hate buying houses. And they said, oh, you're so good at that. I said, yeah, I know, but I hate it. They're like, why do you hate it? I said, I love the part where the people sign the contract. Other than that, I hate it. Right? There's nothing fun about getting out of your house, driving 45 miles to sit in a roach-infested house with some fat lady in her pajamas, smoking last weekend, it was vaping in my face, and only to spend an hour there listening to their problems and leave, and you work for free, and you got to drive another 3 hours back home or 45 minutes back home. And so for me, I started getting really into barbecue about a year and a half ago, because I said, well, if I'm going to have to do this, if I have to go to Fort Worth, right, I'm going to go to this new barbecue joint out here and try that out and have a cold beer. And, by doing that, and I'm going somewhere with this, so hang in there. It was one of those things that I'd always wanted to do. And there was all these barbecue restaurants that, oh, I'm going to go sometime, right? Oh yeah, I want to go. And so finally, when I started making myself do it, I started really elevating what I liked. You know what I mean? It got to where if I went into a restaurant and it doesn't smell right, or I don't think that, I've heard their beef ribs aren't any good, I won't order them just because I want a beef rib, right? Now it's much more kind of been elevated. And then I started learning how to do it on a budget, right? Because people would say, oh, another guy said, I wish I could eat barbecue every day. And I said, well, why can't you? They said, oh, I just can't afford it. I'm like, okay, well, hang on. You may not be able to go in and buy 5 pounds of meat at $20 a pound at these places, but every store in town, it's about $20 a pound for brisket. That's just about the going rate. So a 1/4 pound slice is a good amount of meat, really and truly. The same thing on a 1/4 pound burger. I told them, to take a slice of that really good brisket, just a 1/4 pound slice, throw it on a piece of the free bread, throw it on some pickles and some onions and some jalapenos. And then to me, that's the best sandwich there is. So I know you like to barbecue, and I also see pictures of your grandchildren around. So knowing that barbecue is kind of this metaphor for me, taking more time for the things I want, kind of what's the barbecue in your life? What do you enjoy doing?
Barbecue is a big part of my life. Let's touch on that one for a second. Because I want to really emphasize a point. I'm sure the people that are listening to your podcast get it, but if they're new to barbecuing, I'll tell you, man, I had a place at Cedar Creek Lake for 10 years that had I have to believe I had one of the best views on Cedar Creek Lake. But when my smoker was in the driveway, my chair was pointed toward the smoker, not toward the lake, for the exact same reason that I think you've really touched on. For me, and it still is today, look, our business can be intense. It's hard done. And man, to me, there's something about barbecuing and the whole process of smoking, because you have to slow down, and for guys like you and me, that doesn't come naturally, but you're forced to slow down and take a breath and enjoy the process. And to me, that's what really, has gotten me all these years, kept me so engaged in barbecuing. The other barbecues in my life are, I'm married to frankly, just got to be one of the greatest, certainly humans God could have ever sent to me. Put her in a box with a bow and sent her to me. So she's another passion of mine. I love the business, Tim. I still do like going on buy calls. I still love, my advertising business is phenomenal. in a way, it's a little bit like I tease it with my wife, it's a little bit like a girlfriend. There's always something new and exciting about it. And, just from our conversation today, you could see, especially a guy at my stage of my career, I'm learning something every day from our staff and new things that we're trying that haven't been done before. So it's a big passion of mine. It's another barbecue for me. And then you picked it. Those grandkids, man, everything people tell you about grandkids is true. I love my kids. They're awesome. We've had a great life together, but man, there is something about grandchildren that's just special. And that whole notion of just enjoying them and winding them up and then handing them off to mom and dad while they're out the door and you go take a shower and go to bed is just perfect. So yeah, those are probably all of or a good handful of my passions anyway.
A couple of years ago, you and I had a kind of philosophical discussion about your rental properties and kind of cash flow and all that. Talk to me just real quick, kind of what your portfolio means to you.
That's a really good question. Look, I love them. I think I love them because, look, we get offline, one of the lists is finance, owner financing versus hold rental, which is still one of the things that I wanted to cover with you, but I love them. And I love them because I can touch them. Look, I can't tell you I love my stock portfolio. I don't even know, what half of it means and if it's going to be up today or down tomorrow or whatever. But, especially at the way we buy houses, we've been able to accumulate a reasonable amount of wealth inside of that portfolio in a relatively short period of time. And so I like them a great deal from a, pure financial standpoint. The other thing that has been real important to me, Tim, and I know things like this are important to you too, my wife puts out a really good product. I'm proud of the rehabs that we do. And we're putting a family in a house. Honest to God, most of these properties I'd live in. I mean, when she's done with them, I'd live in them. And I'm proud of that. We have the ability to change people's lives and put them in an environment where they can raise their family. And, I like to think we're good landlords. And so it means a lot to me. That portfolio means a lot. And then, when you start looking at my age and what my future looks like, I've had the good fortune in my business to be able to, we've lived a fairly, I wouldn't say frugal, but we have lived a reasonable lifestyle coming out of a couple of downturns like I know you guys have. We've been pretty conservative. But man, I could make a living out of driving around and checking on my rental property and going on a couple of buy calls. And I always tease, man, I'm going to die. Somebody's going to say, I'm going to die at 80, 85, I hope. And so I probably go on a buy call and some lady thought I was cute and, was going to sell me her house. So we'll see.
So you're the guy that introduced me to Slow Bones Chicken. So I have you forever to think about that. And, I think I've developed after the B2R Blackstone timeframe, I've developed a large affinity for my rental properties. I think it's something in my life that I had mistreated for a while there, kind of got a little addicted to the cash that comes from flipping and all that. And so, it's kind of something that I was telling Jennifer, I'm really committed over the next 18 months to grow that to a point that we can just not flip houses anymore, not advertise, not wholesale, really just kind of commit to that side of the fence because I do enjoy that because that's not transactional, right? That every time I do it, I feel like I'm adding something that my children and my wife, my children will enjoy once she and I are gone, or if something happened to me, right? Like it could take care of them. So that's like I'm having the REI Masterminds in August, which is it's for landlords only. It's too often I've taught wholesaling and flipping. And what I've learned is I don't like it. So I'm not going to teach it anymore. We're almost out of time. And I really, 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 really want you to talk about a lesson or two from the front seat to send us off. You had told me about the drives from the passenger seat.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim. Yeah. I'll get emotional about that.
Well, you're going to make a podcast one day.
Yeah, I am. I'm going to get you to help me. Look, I think just to try to explain to, the people that are listening here, and I think especially as dads, so many families, and I've had, I don't know, I guess I've had the good fortune of, my dad was my best friend, and I had the good fortune of him schooling me in and day out. I know that you are that with your boys. So many kids don't have their dad, and there's so many families that are broken up today, and that advice that at least I think you're a much younger man than me, but even in our generation with our dads, there wasn't phones in their way, there wasn't video, when you talked. And my dad's way of going about that was he would put me in the car. And, I was 15, 16, even older. He'd put me in the car and we'd go for a drive. And there was no way out of the car. I mean,
And you didn't have one of these to look at as you were driving.
There was no phone. So there was nothing, man, but you and him. And there are so many lessons that he gave me in that time together. And one of the things that, I'm really dedicated to is I want to try to collect this wisdom from dads like you and dads that you respect and I respect, and try to somehow capture it and be able to pass that learning on to so many of these kids today that don't have the benefit of having their dad next to them in the car. So that's kind of a little bit of one of my next steps that I want to try to get done.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I will be a subscriber. So we are out of time. Charlie, how do people if there's someone listening that thinks they need a full service advertising agency, how do they get in touch with you?
Imaginuity.com.
We'll put some links in the show notes.
Yeah, great. Imaginuity.com. We've got a great group of people there that are really on the cutting edge of the entire customer journey from offline to online. And we've got a really great company. So thank you, Tim. I appreciate you having me. You know how much I respect you, and I appreciate our friendship and the business that we've done together. So it means a lot to me that you'd include me in your podcast.
Yeah, man. So folks, you've been listening to Charlie Calise, a man that I've been cross with, a man that I have been thankful for, a man that I've been admirable of, the only person I've ever met that I knew in a tuxedo in a convenience store at midnight.
That's true.
And a good friend. So Charlie, thanks for taking the time on a Friday. We'll see you around, bud.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks for listening to the Business and BBQ Podcast. Make sure you check out our other episodes and stop by timharridge.com to say hi. We want to hear from you. Until next time, keep cooking.